Welcome. In this teaching moment, we're going to look at sending out the weekly risk report in an email. So let's just quickly review what happens before that. Typically on a project, you'll have a vendor or a contractor PM, and they'll be working with the client PM to finalize the weekly risk report, any updates or new entries for that week. Once it's finalized, remembering, of course, that the vendor is the one always responsible for the weekly risk report to ensure that it's filled out and does all the entry. Once it's finalized, that will be sent out in an email to the rest of the project team. And we recommend, along with that email, you include that week's agenda for the risk meeting, the risk phone call that typically takes place. Now, something that's very important to remember is that typically a lot of people will not open the weekly risk report Excel file that's been attached to the email. So the body of the email that you actually send out to the project team becomes very, very important. Let's just quickly look at what that might include in that body of that email. We recommend you identify what risks are currently outstanding and what new risk exist, and then put in the agenda for that week's weekly risk call. The agenda typically will start with a review of the project status or the schedule and a quick look ahead of the next action items. Review any outstanding or old risk, who's responsible and what the next action item is, and then do the same thing for any new risks that occurred for that week. Also, we recommend you take just a few moments and review the risk management plan, looking at any of the risks that were identified before the project started to see if they're going to cause the project trouble. Review any other agenda items that are needed, have an open forum, and then close out the meeting. In our experience, once this is running properly, it will only take 5 to 15 minutes per week to manage your project based upon risk.